Welcome to AFSA's Extra Credit Podcast. I'm your host, Celia Winslow, AFSA President and CEO. Today, we have two very special guests with us from First Franklin, both named Ben Cheek. So last year, First Franklin celebrated its 80th anniversary, helping neighbors with quick loans and respectful, friendly service. This traditional installment lending company was started and is still headquartered in Toccoa, Georgia. So before we get to the questions, I'll set the stage by telling you the genesis behind this podcast. So at AFSA's Independence Conference in May, our keynote speaker was talking about AI. And he was talking about the changes it'll bring from everyone having their own AI agent to robots being able to fold our laundry. And then after the speech, I caught up with Ben Cheek, the senior, and his daughter Ginger to ask about the changes in technology that they've seen over time in their family company. So Mr. Cheek was teasing his daughter a little bit about that adding machine that she still likes to use. And Ginger recounted how pleased her father was when he was reporting to his grandson that he had been Googling something, and his grandson replied that we didn't really Google anymore. We just put the question into ChatGPT. So I thought that everyone seems to be interested in this topic of how technology is changing business, and so who better to ask than different generations in the same family and the same business? So, and if I'm interested, I hope that others will be as well. So I asked if we could have both the youngest working generation and the oldest here on Extra Credit to talk about the installment lending industry then and now, especially the differences in technology, what effect that has had, what hasn't changed, and what we might be looking for in the future. So I'm very grateful that the grandson, who we're going to call Ben, and the grandfather, who we'll call Mr. Cheek, both agreed to join today. Mr. Cheek is the Chairman Emeritus of the Board of Directors, remaining a familiar and welcome presence in the home office, and he recently celebrated an incredible milestone, 65 years of service. Ben graduated from Auburn University in 2024 with a bachelor's degree in business and is currently a project coordinator at First Franklin. So let's get started with a little bit of First Franklin history because, frankly, it's a great story. So, Mr. Cheek, could you tell us about how your dad founding the company, when you took it over, when your son Buddy and daughter Ginger took the reins?
Sure. My dad started our company in 1941. I was not quite 5 years old, and so he began the company, or began the company as we know it today, in an upstairs office in his law office. He had practiced law for about 10 years. Didn't enjoy a day of it because essentially he was carrying out the wishes of his father. And when he had the opportunity to do something that he wanted to do, then that's where what was then called Franklin Discount Company came along in 1941. So from that day on, we started doing. He was a sole proprietorship for about 5 years, and then incorporated, and then from there moved his office out of his law office into a regular office in the downtown area of Toccoa. Now, Toccoa is a small town, and so consequently, it was an office in a small town, and it remained that way until really in 1955 when he started his first branch office operation in a nearby town about 15 miles away. So that was the beginning point of where we started, and since that time have been fortunate enough to be able to grow a little bit as we've come along.
A little bit is definitely quite the understatement. So, Ben, why don't you tell us about where First Franklin is now? Who's running the company? How's it grown? What stayed the same despite how much it's grown?
Yeah, so currently our CEO is Jerry Harrison, somebody that Ginger, my aunt, has known for 20 plus years. They met in their YPO organization, formed a forum group with the local people she was around. He was a member of our board for some time, as I understand. So he's been around my family for longer than I can remember. So he's currently our CEO, and he's got an amazing executive team up underneath him, some great individuals, and I think we have all the right people we need to grow and keep prospering as much as we have. Yeah, so I think that something that has remained the same is that we've always tried to keep it as a customer first experience, somewhere you can come in, you're going to get a great customer service experience. That branch is going to greet you and welcome you as you walk through the door. You're going to come in, be treated the exact same, no matter who you are, what your credit score is, what your background is. Every single person's going to get the respect that they deserve. And throughout the growth and throughout the expansion and the amount of branches and employees we've grown, we've always tried to focus that, even as technology's advanced, that we've always tried to focus in on that customer is going to come in and get treated like more than just a number. You're more than just, some profit or a loan amount to us. It's always going to be something more than that.
Mr. Cheek, do you agree? And I guess one of the other changes has been the loan size. I think your dad's first loan was for $34. So I would imagine you're not making too many $34 loans these days.
No, that's true. And everybody will they need to recognize that a lot of my remarks are made from 65 years ago. A lot of the people listening probably won't be able to really grasp some of the ideas and some of the things that we were operating under during that time in the 50s and 60s and 70s. In fact, I run into people quite often now that you mention certain pieces of equipment that you used back then, and they really don't know what you're talking about. So it was a different time, and many different things have occurred over that time. But since we've always still been able to continue to grow and prosper, and what Ben has remarked has always been kind of the basis and the foundation of our organization. We have tried not to in any way deter ourselves or to move in a direction other than that, in the hopes that people still very much wanted personal relationships and still recognize themselves as individuals who want individual attention and care. And so we try to do that. And I think Ben's been very correct in that as we have tried to grow and move ahead.
That makes a lot of sense. And looking at some of the reviews, I've seen that certainly is very true. And I think their customers have a great experience. And I think, speaking of looking at things online, so Ben, what was your first job at First Franklin, and what are you doing now on a kind of day-to-day?
Yeah, so my first job was a summer job in high school. I spent some time in the branch. I stuffed envelopes, cleaned out some filing cabinets, took payments, basically kind of just did anything I could to assist the staff there. And then moving on to college, I worked for my cousin, who was our director of internal communications at the time, and helped her put articles together for our internal website, any sort of engagement activities that we wanted to plan. I kind of helped her help with that, and then moving on from there, once I graduated from Auburn, I was able to get a good tour of the company and kind of get a feel of what department each does. And I felt that the best spot for me to start out was in our project management division. And that has been unmountable growth for me. I've been able to learn so much from them, and I've been able to learn so much about each department just working through various projects. And the team that I've been able to work with has been so amazing, and they've taught me so much more than just what the job is, but what the company's about. And more than I know, I get the very broad view, but they get the more in the weeds view. And I've been able to learn more and more on how we do things. And it's been amazing.
So I'm guessing, Mr. Cheek, the first job with the company was not doing anything with websites. Just going out on a limb with that one. I know I've talked to a few different people about their first jobs in the consumer finance industry, or I shouldn't say jobs, first experiences in the consumer finance industry. I think Ginger mentioned she helped answering phones in high school. Somebody else told me that his father used to take him on collections calls when he was little. And somebody else said their first job was mixing drinks at cocktail hour. So what was yours, Mr. Cheek?
Well, the last one must have had an exciting experience, but as I mentioned, I came along at a time where we had one office, and that office was here in Toccoa, and my dad and a lady that worked with us for some number of years, and my grandfather were basically the staff of that office. And so their need for much assistance as far as I'm concerned, as a young age, was fairly small. So consequently, I wound up with jobs of delivering the Atlanta Constitution, the Atlanta Journal, to various households here in Toccoa, as well as being somewhat entrepreneurial, had my lawn mowing business that I started and worked with. But more than being able to be associated with the business as such, my work was something other than in the office. And so really my real exposure to the business didn't really begin until after I was already in college. And so I was able to come home in the summertime, work in the offices, work with the managers, the two or three that we had at that time, with what they were doing and the job that they had. They coming back after I had graduated from law school to undertake a little more responsibility and do a few more things. But really, at the early stages, there wasn't a great deal that they needed me for, and therefore I wasn't exposed to it. I will give Ginger credit. She was, because we had a lot more work that needed to be done, and we needed phones answered. So she was here to do that.
Did you actually mow First Franklin's lawn, like the lawn at the company too?
No, at that time I wasn't really looking to my mom and dad to pay me. That I was concerned that I wouldn't really make a very decent living if I were working for my mom and dad. So consequently, I offered my services to other people, and fortunately, they were nice enough to compensate me for cutting the lawns. But that was quite an experience for me, and a very worthwhile experience when I found you worked hard and you still didn't make a whole lot of money, but still it was a good experience that I will always remember.
Can't really imagine mowing a lawn on a day like today with 97 degrees.
Exactly. That would be tough, but maybe only a 10 or 12 or 15-year-old could do that today.
Yeah, right. Moving from the personal into a little bit more industry focused, and to talk a little bit about some of the changes in how business was done in the 70s and 80s versus now. So, Mr. Cheek, a few decades ago, how did you attract customers? What did the application and approval process look like? How did you decide who got credit without, the robust credit reporting system that's around today?
Well, see, I would guess that there isn't a great deal of difference in the information that you gathered as far as applications are concerned. Now, of course, what we did then is it was done with a pencil and a piece of paper. And as far as the applications are concerned, whereas today, of course, everything is done online and can be done much more rapidly and much more carefully, I think. But I'm not sure that the information that we gathered has varied that much. Now, over the period of time, I would think there are certain particular areas by virtue of a regulation and statutory requirements that have necessitated a change, or at least required that we do things somewhat differently. But the information that was necessary to make a loan then and to make an intelligent decision, and I will say that during the 70s and prior to our having involved ourselves in technology, a great deal or most of the decision-making process took place within the office and by the manager. And so therefore it wasn't outside help that helped much. Now, did we get and were we able to get a credit bureau report? The answer is yes, but most of the time we depended on the information that the customer themselves provided. That's changed significantly then, as you noticed, and as you have noted, and things are quite different today. But then it was pretty much a pencil and a piece of paper and a conversation with the particular individual that had come to us for the borrowing and so on. So again, we were still operating in small communities. We weren't not in your metropolitan areas, and so it was still pretty much a situation where we and many of the people that worked with us knew the people and knew their family and knew their background.
That sounds a lot like my grandfather was the president of a small town bank in a town in Colorado. And
Yeah.
so he knew if the guy comes in and he says, I'd like whatever it was, a $1,000 loan. Yeah, I've seen your fields. I don't think you're going to be able to pay back that $1,000 or, you know,
They were very
that
familiar with the local population, the people there, and the conditions that existed there. So I can understand how you could do that.
yeah. So Ben, I think it's changed a little bit since pen and paper and knowing everyone that comes into the branches. I think most of our listeners know what it's like right now, but what do you think about the future? Consumer finance lending is in your blood. What do you see? Do you think lenders are going to increase their use of alternative data? Right now it's rent or utility bills, that there are going to be other things that are going to come in. And about the use of AI, I think there's uses around the office. Not a lot of people are using it in decision making right now. But do you think in the end, people are just going to type into Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot, hey, should I give Celia Winslow a loan?
Yeah, so for alternative data, in my opinion, I think any sort of correlation and data that can be backed up that it'll tie it into it, be statistically correct. I absolutely think any sort of alternative data that we can find will absolutely be used. And for the AI piece, I think it's going to be a tool that we will most definitely use, but I don't think it'll ever replace the actual decision making. I use Copilot and whatever ChatGPT I have on my phone. If I'm online shopping, I can go in and go, I like this shirt, and it'll give me the measurements. And instead of having to break out the measuring tape and measuring my shoulder to my wrist, I can just go, I'm 5'10", I weigh X. I want this to fit a little bit large. What size should I get? And it'll give me its recommendation, but nothing's going to beat me walking into the store and actually trying it on myself. So I think that AI and tools like that will most definitely be used as a tool to lenders to say, hey, this person's got this credit score, they've got this, should I lend? And it'll give me its guess and its recommendation. But ultimately, I don't think it'll ever get to the point where that is the absolute, we go by that book and whatever AI says, that's who we're determining to use if we lend or not.
Right. I think that's a great comparison. That's a very good way to say you all those measurements, but it doesn't equal what really being there is, and that kind of real touch that it has there. That's a good way to put it. And of course, we're not talking about what laws or regulations would have to change for that to happen as well. Just if you could wipe that clean, you still wouldn't use that because you need some of the other information that's there. And as we've all seen when we've asked Claude or ChatGPT certain questions, the answers that come back are sometimes not something you'd want to rely on and get something paid. What about why people are borrowing money? So since you guys are really you're still in the community, the home office is still Toccoa. So while there are branches, across several different states, and obviously we have the web presence and people starting applications on phones and things like that. But the reasons that they borrowed it, has that changed? I mean, were they borrowing it to finance their fax machine, but not anymore? Or is it really, are you seeing some of the same reasons over time?
What do you mean? If you're asking me, I will say that the people coming today don't need a $34 loan. They've changed very dramatically since that time. Now, essentially, the reasons are in many respects still there. Vacation, back to school, Christmas, other kinds of things where particular needs come along. Consequently, the reasons that people borrow, as far as they tell us this day and time, are essentially the same. The big thing is that the amounts necessary to meet those needs have significantly gotten bigger. And so consequently, instead of the $300, $400, $500 loan that was made back in the 60s, 70s, and that period of time, it's gotten to be considerably larger and still meeting the same needs. A vacation would, they say in the 60s, would cost $600. Today maybe costs $6,000. And so consequently, it has changed dramatically, although the same needs seem to me to be essentially the same thing.
Ben, what have you seen as you were in the branch for a while doing lots of different things? What did you see that maybe surprised you as a reason that people came in, or as you were talking to some of the branch managers and the loan operators in the branches? What really stood out to you?
Um, I think something that really stood out to me was people need money for all sorts of reasons. You think of like your AC going out or something breaking in your car, and you think that's kind of what your mind goes to when somebody says they need a loan. But it really is, it's a lot of different things. Some people might just be down on their luck and they're looking to buy their kids' Christmas presents for the year. It's various different things, and that's been some of the feel good stories that I've been able to listen in, because I never got to the point where I was able to take an actual application just because I was there for a summer, but
Yeah.
just kind of grew through the conversations, people needing those sorts of things, and us being able to provide those funds to them so they can make that happen for their family has been amazing.
These parents that went to get loans to get their kids Christmas presents, I just got fewer Christmas presents. So a couple books. I wish I did not get the nice Nikes. We did not have a Nintendo system. We had a Commodore 64. The love was a little sparser there. And same, I did not get paid around the house for all the babysitting I did. But that's okay. I got a college education, so I'm grateful to my parents for saving up for that. Any surprising stories when it comes to new products that people may finance? Like, do you hear people coming in to say, I need it for a computer, or is it, people aren't filling it out the same way? I would imagine things like, back in the day, maybe you needed it more there were more people coming in for farm reasons.
And personally, Celia, I personally have not been that closely associated with the branch operation, having been removed, as you know, over a number of years now. So I can't really answer that question to say what products or services that they might be needing now or looking to that maybe are different or in addition to the ones that were there some number of years ago. But I would have to believe that there are requests and that there are products and services that are available today that they would be attempting to try to meet the need or to get. I mean, you have iPhones, you have laptops, you have all kinds of different things that have come along in the last 10 to 20 years that were not available and were not needed back when I was more closely involved with the branches. So I would have to say there's got to be. I just don't necessarily having been exposed to that myself.
Yeah. Well, then let's go back to something you were exposed to, and let's talk a little bit about technology that you use. So what was the single biggest technological shift that you witnessed through your active years with the company, and how did you feel when it arrived?
Well, I can tell you with no question that our first exposure to technology and what we called computers, and it was not much of a computer, but it was a computer at that time. To us, it was 1977. Now, up to that time, we had essentially been operating our offices in the very much the same way that we had during the 40s and 50s and 60s. And so 1977 and getting involved with a computer system and putting it in the various branches that we had in the state of Georgia was a unique experience, to the fact that even in the fact that we had numbers of people who basically threw their hands up in the air and said, no, this is not for me. I think I need to try something entirely different. And they just didn't want to go through the process of converting to a computer system. Well, am I glad that we did that? And since that time, things have dramatically changed. In fact, we have just gone through a conversion in the company in the last couple of 3 years to another system. But was that worth the effort? Yes, absolutely it was, because we would not have been where we are today without it. A very different and unique experience in 1977 for us to embark upon that. and we're glad we did.
How did that change the culture of the workplace? You say some people changed careers for that.
Yeah.
Was it the people leaving, or was it the way that people talk to each other? What changed in the culture about when with the advent of computers?
Well, I think Ben might have mentioned this just a little while ago, but I'm not sure that the culture changed that much. I just think that it was such a new environment that we had with the computer system, or with the system we had that time. We didn't, for instance, at that time, we still took applications in essentially the same way we had up to that point. We took payments the same way we had up to that point. We just were able to convert it in a faster way because of the computing system. And we didn't really get to a situation where we could take an application online until 1983. So you can see it was a beginning point for us at that time. But the culture, I don't think we changed our culture now. And hopefully we didn't change our culture then as to what our expectations were and the way we wanted to deal with the customers and people that came and sought to work with us, and we work with them. But I will say it changed the activity and the requirements and the teaching and learning process of the people that worked with us considerably.
I think, and Ben, I hope you agree with me. Everything that your grandfather is saying sounds a lot like what's happening right now with the shift to AI, and certain people saying, "Nope, this is not for me. I'm out." And others, it'll be a little bit of a struggle, but I'm willing to learn. So, is there anything that you wish that was still around for the old manual processes, or it's good? You don't feel like you need that calculator, you don't need Ginger's adding machine, you're good?
Celia, I will tell you this. In any kind of conversion process, and I think this has happened to us at our first experience back in 1977, 78, that time, but each time that we have progressively changed and putting in new systems. Of course, we went through 2000, where the whole world was supposed to come to a stop, as you might remember. And not that you were involved, of course, but that you might remember. But we had converted it to a new system at that time. The one thing, and this usually comes from those that have been with us for some number of years, that have had some exposure to what we call ledger cards. And when they're all involved in the transition to the new systems and all of the headaches that go with it and all the things that you say, well, it's going to get better and this type of thing, and the reassurances, they remember the time that all they had was this ledger card, and they would take the payment and be happy and put it back in and say, that's done. And unfortunately, with the computer system, sometimes that's not all that's done. But other than that, and we get some opinions about that. Other than that, I don't think we change a thing. That what we have gotten out of technology and what assistance has been to us over these years has been tremendous. And what we're going to be dealing with, and what Ben and others will be dealing with in the future, will even be better.
About that physical paper, and to see it decrease. Some people have said that the reason there's more unhappiness, or when people are surveyed, that they express more unhappiness now than in the past, is that you can't see the work that you've done. When you plow a field or when you mowed a lawn, you could see the work, but when you've sent 500 emails, you don't see it. And so you don't have that same feeling of accomplishment. It's just, okay, well, on to the next email. So that's an interesting point. The thing that I missed the most, and I wouldn't go back to the old printers, but man, it was fun to kind of tear those dot matrix printers, and you tear off the those strips on the side with the holes. That was
Yeah.
We didn't have cable, so that was entertaining for us.
Say, for the good old days.
Yeah, right. So for both of you, what do you think are skills that used to be essential but are now obsolete? or what ones, or and which ones now are non-negotiable? So, for example, I think a skill that was needed for a long time was how to phrase a Google search. But now most people, you can ask the whole question. You're not looking for keywords as you put something into AI. But what's one of those skills that you used to really need that you just, or math? I don't know. I won't answer all my questions. Go ahead.
And then go first. So I think something that is an absolute necessity now is adaptability. With the ever-changing times and the growth in technology, I think you have to be able to be light on your feet. Even with the growth in AI, from when it first came out to now, I mean, it's grown immensely. And if you're not caught up with times or not willing to change with the times, then I think you're going to get left behind, and you'll be standing there looking around going, well, everybody knows something that I don't. So I think you have to make sure that you're on your toes when things are changing and you're willing to make those changes. It's something that I think is probably not needed as much. And hopefully my grandfather doesn't come over the table about this, is the overall understanding of the task or of the field you're in. Obviously, I think you need to know what you're working on, but with AI and with Google, the overall knowledge of something, I don't think you need to be so in the weeds about, just because I can go look it up immediately and it'll give me, a 2-page summary of exactly what I need to know. I think you probably need to be more focused on how to apply that knowledge. It's like I'm a big car person. I can ask you, how am I supposed to fix an engine? And you can go into AI and go, how do I fix this engine? And it can tell you, but does that mean you can go actually fix the engine yourself? Probably not. So that means, just being able to apply the knowledge, I think is way more needed now than it is actually having that actual knowledge just in the back of your head, but not knowing what to do with it. So.
Yes, that's true. We used to actually even have friends I had a friend that knew all about movies. So when you're watching something and you can't figure out who that actress is, you can call that one friend. Now you don't need that friend. So it's okay if she wasn't really nice. What about you, Mr. Cheek?
Interesting, and I don't say that you don't need it, but apparently you don't need it from what I see about the younger people that are coming along in some of the schools this day and time. Back when I came along, back years and years ago, and I think this was true even for my father, would be the ability for cursive writing, and now this day and time, cursive is not even a method of communicating as far as writing is concerned. Being able to print is the method and the manner in which younger people this day and time write. And I would say that apparently the ability to write cursive is no longer going to be necessary. And that's kind of those things that you say was needed and used considerably back numbers of years ago, but not today. And so and then I would have to agree with Ben, the willingness to adapt to new information and new technology is coming extremely rapidly is certainly something that you're going to have to be able to deal with and become acquainted with, or it is one of the things they say, if you can't move, you better get out of the way. And that's pretty well where we are, because the folks that can't do that or aren't willing to do that will be in very deep trouble and have a very difficult time with the environment which they find themselves.
Yep. Well, I will be interested to see my kids' reaction when they have them listen to this podcast. They learn cursive at their school.
Good for them. I just have experienced the fact that so many of them have no knowledge and no ability as far as cursive writing is concerned.
Yeah, I can't read what they wrote. So I think that some of it come back into fashion, and there's some cyclical nature.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, they have to memorize things. So there's some, I think there's already starting, people have kind of realized that some of the skills that we stopped teaching for a while had a reason they were taught before and have come back.
Well, good.
But they do tell me they don't think math is necessary. So.
Well, I thought that as I was coming along too, and that's a long time ago.
Awesome. So we'll close out here shortly, but I want to ask a couple last questions. So we'll start with you. with a younger Ben. What does success in this industry mean to you?
I think success in this industry means even with the advances in technology that we don't lose sight and that the customer experience and customer services that we provide. I know that the technology is growing and we're growing with it. And now you can call in and make a loan. You don't have to show up to a branch. But I hope that we and I know we'll strive to continue making sure that we foster that connection with the customer and make sure that we are always a place that you can come in and talk to somebody face to face. And I know personally that it drives me insane when I try to call into a company and I have to talk to a robot for 30 minutes before I can finally get to a person. And I hope even with the changes in technology that we will always be a place where you can pick up the phone and another person will pick up instantly and you can have that real human connection even with the changes in technology coming.
Thankful and someone who's had those same experiences, I think that makes a big difference. I agree 100%. How about you, Mr. Cheek? What does success mean?
I would really be hard pressed to do any better than what Ben's done. I hope and pray that what he has just said will be the method and manner in which we operate in many years to come, because I think it's vitally important. It's an amazing thing that as much technology and as much access as we have to being assisted with technology, people still like to talk with other people and visit with other people face to face. And they feel like, I think, that people can more readily understand what their needs are by being able to look and talk with them as opposed to talking to a machine, whatever that machine might be, and then expecting to get the results that they want. So I can't really beat what he had to say, and I hope he will keep pushing that himself.
Excellent. I think that's so true when we've been on the phone and you keep trying to hit zero or yell for an agent. I mean, there's certainly a place for bots. If I just want to know, is your restaurant open or not, I'm more than happy to have a machine read that to me. But if I'm trying to say, hey, is your store really handicapped accessible? Can I really bring my mom? I need you to tell me, yes, actually, we have a ramp on the side, so this is where you're going to park. And so I agree. So my final question is, what do you hope the company or the industry looks like in another 65 years? So yes, agreed that that's going to be still that personal relationship, that customer experience. Do you hope that there's going to be robots that are vacuuming or robots filing some paperwork, or there won't be paper? You'll have employees in 65 years that have never held a piece of paper, only a tablet. What's your wild prediction for 65 years from now?
I think we'll always have the people doing the job, but I think we'll have as many tools as we can to provide to them to make the job easier for them. So I think, like I said, and it seems to be the theme of this, but the technology is just keep growing, and I'm sure there's going to be more tools that can, help better the job experience. And I hope that I will strive for making sure that we always have the people there in case the robots aren't providing the service. Like you said, if they can't tell you if the building's handicap accessible, that we'll always make sure that there's, someone in that seat and someone to talk to if you need to get past the robots.
I love it. Thank you both so much. I think you're right. The theme of this call really is technology can help us. We need it. It's there. We're going to use it. We're going to adapt to it. But people are at the heart of it. And we need to always remember that, whether that's people in the office or our customers that we're serving.
Absolutely.
Thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.